Hello and good morning. Good Thursday morning. I haven't taken the phone off of the hook yet this morning. Uh, so I think what I'm going to do to prevent one of those robocalls, I'm going to take it off right now and I'm going to kind of hopefully quiet the ringer. You didn't have to see me do that. Anyway, um, I've titled today's talk "Initiation Don't. What Are You Waiting For?" And and I really mean it. Uh, we've been lucky for the last 50 years or so. We've been lucky to have very wonderful uh, outer order occult organizations. Um, Everything from the Freemasons, which is pretty not overtly occult, but nevertheless gives one an initiatory experience. Uh, but groups that were the heirs to the Golden Dawn, okay, BOTA and other Golden Dawn-ish type organizations. Then in the early 70s, the OTO found new life and sprung into action is probably arguably one of the largest worldwide occult, overtly occult magical organization on the planet. And there's no end of small initiatory groups, various Martinists and uh, and uh, and other groups. We've been very, very lucky that we can practice that. We can join, study with others, be initiated with other people. And for the last 50 years, in most parts of the world, we've been able to do that freely. I've mentioned that, however, just less than 10 years before I was born, uh, when Europe was under the sway of, when there was a war going on, world war going on in Europe and Asia, and the occult orders in Europe who were under the thumb of the fascist regimes. Hitler outlawed the Masons and the OTO and put the head of the OTO in several concentration camps, actually moved around. Um, and people weren't so lucky to have initiatory societies. Well, now we have a great deal of the literature and the textual material that these orders studied. We have all this material readily available for anyone with the drive to gather up a small library or nowadays look things up on the internet. Uh, but that is no longer always assured. And just as the occultists in Europe discovered in the 30s and 40s, that can be taken away uh, and worse uh, in a blink of an eye. So that brings up the idea of, if we're really serious with all of this, and we would have, if the circumstances arose that we couldn't easily meet with others, uh, or we couldn't have enough uh, freedom to mount real beautiful initiation ceremonies. Uh, would that mean that initiation stops? Does that mean that each individual uh, student, each individual potential initiate has to put it all on hold until the rest of the world somehow wakes up and allows you to do it again? Might take a generation or two. Self-initiation, let's put it this way. Ultimately, all initiation is self-initiation. In a sense, we've just had the luxury of having a whole bunch of well-minded or kindly, well-intended people to help us self-initiate. I'm going to read you something that I wrote about self-initiation, and where I'm suggesting that initiate yourself. Okay, that all other initiations can then just be icing on the cake. Okay, and an underscore, uh, uh, a dilation, an artful dilation of your own self-initiation. And initiatory societies, you take an oath. Now, who are you going to take an oath to in your self-initiation? You're going to take it to yourself. Because even if you think that you're putting your hand on your sacred text and swearing your oath for each degree of an initiatory society that you're in, now you're taking it to yourself. And that volume of the sacred law that you lay your hand on is your own heart. Here's an oath. See if you're ready to take it. I, and then your magical motto, if you got one, or pretend you have one. I, suel est. In the presence of all I hold sacred, do hereby accept absolute responsibility for my own condition of darkness and ignorance. And I solemnly acknowledge to declare that ultimately only I can bring myself to light. I'm going to repeat that in case you're looking on the little caption screen there to get it right. I, and then your magical motto. I, in the presence of all I hold sacred, do hereby accept absolute responsibility for my own condition of darkness and ignorance, and solemnly acknowledge and declare that ultimately only I can bring myself to light. Now, wasn't that easy? For some of us, it only took 10,000 incarnations to get to that point of taking that oath. But just like in a brick and mortar lodge room, after that oath, the initiation will proceed. Okay, I'm gonna read this to you. This is something I wrote for a book that's currently out of print, but will be in print hopefully in a year or two. I'm quoting Aleister Crowley from Liber 61. In all systems of religion is to be found a system of initiation, which may be defined as the process by which a man comes to learn that unknown crown. Okay, I'm going to do the light there. I didn't know what exactly to expect when I mailed my membership application and money to the Rosicrucian Order Amorc back in 1971. But I was giddy at the thought of becoming a member of an honest-to-goodness occult society of students and adepts. My brother Mark had joined the organization, which advertised in magazines such as Fate magazine and Popular Mechanics. My brother had joined a number of months earlier and had shared a few of his experiences. I knew I was signing up for a correspondence course, an ongoing series of monographs that taught ancient occult principles and exercises. I knew I was to faithfully study these monographs every Thursday evening in the privacy of my own temple. Today's Thursday. Okay. I also knew that my study sessions would involve a certain amount of ceremony. A little candle lighting, incense burning, chanting, and meditation. Just the kind of spooky stuff a wide-eyed 24-year-old fledgling mystic like Lon Milo DuQuette was looking for. My first monograph arrived unceremoniously in the mail on a Thursday. A cosmic synchronicity I could only interpret as a direct message from the gods. I nervously awaited for the sun to go down so I could open the envelope and let the magic begin. After dinner, I showered and dressed in my karate gi, the closest thing I had to magical vestments. Constance, who was pregnant with our soon-to-arrive and as yet unnamed baby, agreed to busy herself in the kitchen and living room while I sequestered myself, excuse me, in the bedroom with my candles, my incense, and my first mystical monograph. I opened the envelope and I smelled the contents. Yes, I smelled the contents. Do you do that? When U.S. Games first sent me my first copy of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, okay, I ceremonially opened it because it was going to be like the mother deck of all the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic decks ever printed in the future. And I, took that plastic wrapper off the cover and I opened the box and the cards were still inside, were still wrapped. But the first thing I did was I popped the lid and I went, do you do things like that? Or when you buy something and it's new and you engage all your senses, you look at it, you feel it, and then you smell it. Smelling it, inhaling it is a very cosmically almost sexual thing. It's a union. It's a marriage. It penetrates the breath, the pneuma, the spiritui. God blew into Adam's nose, and Adam was just a dirt statue until he blew into the nose. But I digress. Okay. I opened the envelope and smelled the contents, read the few introductory words, and realized I was to undergo right then and there a ceremony of initiation. When I was a youngster in junior high, the word initiation was a word to be feared. Initiation meant institutionalized bullying and torment inflicted by older students upon naive and fearful underclassmen. A Western junior high school initiation meant getting your pants pulled off and hoisted up a flagpole, and discovering too late that someone had sprinkled itching powder in your jock. Of course, there are other, more innocuous kinds of initiations in life, but at the very least, the word implied preliminary fee or penalty one must pay before presuming to be part of an organization. Initiate, as a verb, means to begin. Initiation is simply a commencement. A magical initiation marks the beginning of a change, a mutation, an evolutionary step in the life of the magician who, if all goes well, will exit the initiatory chamber a different person from the one who blindly entered in. Spiritual evolution is a series of these commencements. The magician formally recognizes the beginning of each new phase as he or she grows, step by step, degree by degree, in wisdom and understanding. And you could look at that Kabbalistic diagram of the tree of life as initiation number 1, initiation number 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. Formal initiatory societies are very popular, or were very popular in ancient Egypt, Greece, and other Mediterranean and Asian cultures. Also many tribal cultures. The rites of initiation offered a more intelligent, elite, and esoteric spiritual experience than could be offered by the more crude and superstitious religions of the masses. Arguably, the most successful of the ancient initiatory societies was centered in the Greek city of Eleusis. The Eleusinian mysteries were celebrated the agricultural mysteries of the goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone. For the better part, get this, of 2,000 years. Okay, you think the Masons are an old outfit. 2,000 years, the Eleusinian mysteries were the hottest initiatory game on the block. The Eleusinian mysteries themselves had developed from far older Mycenaean agricultural cults and the Egyptian rites of Isis and Osiris. The archetypal text that set the standard and formula for many of these initiatory societies was the Egyptian Book of the Dead. A magical text that on the surface presumes to counsel and the recently deceased on how to navigate the obstacles and the challenges of the afterlife in the timeless moments of the death coma. In doing so, the Book of the Dead also reveals the magical formula for all graduated process of self-induced consciousness expansion. It's the formula of initiation by degree. Speculation about what actually went on during the ancient initiation ceremonies fills the pages of many occult books, some good, some laughably bad. Oddly enough, the process of speculation in and of itself is a vicarious initiatory experience. In other words, speculating on the initiations are initiations themselves, or a form of initiations themselves. For in order to even contemplate the dynamics of an initiation, one has to put oneself in the place of both the candidate and the initiator. To its credit, Amorc's little correspondence course ceremonies of self-initiation were artfully crafted and presented in such a way that if the candidate was sincere and open to the moment, a degree of true initiation actually could take place. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you without evasion, equivocation, or mental reservation of any kind, that on that Thursday evening in 1971, I was profoundly sincere and profoundly open to the moment. I allowed the printed words on the page of that monograph to transport me to my own inner temple of initiation. There I met my magical self for the first time. There I pledged with every fiber of my being to discover the powers of my own soul and to use those powers to attain enlightenment and spiritual liberation for the benefit of myself and every monad of existence. I was ready for that moment. All I needed was a little shove, a little help and encouragement from those few words. The monograph may have given me that shove, but the initiation itself was entirely my own. It was a homemade initiation. In the 40, well, now it's almost 50 years since that quiet evening, I've been the candidate in many initiation ceremonies. Some of them have required the dramatic and magical talents of many officers and have taken place in historic and richly adorned temples of gold and marble. Yeah, a couple of them. Others have taken place in modest lodge rooms with only a handful of officers. Some have taken place under the stars or in converted garages and residential living rooms. Several of my initiations, the presiding officer was visibly intoxicated, and the assisting officers ineptly read their lines from scripts they were seeing for the first time. No matter what the circumstances, I consider these experiences initiations. You're probably wondering how on earth can someone consider a ceremony conducted by a drunken master assisted by untrained and incompetent officers to be a true spiritual initiation? My answer is simple. Because all true initiations are self-initiations. No matter how simple or elaborate the ceremony, no matter how skilled or competent the officers, the initiation itself takes place in the temple of your own soul. Your application is your sincerity, and your initiation fee is your desire and ability to be open to the moment. My little Amorc monograph initiation was a real initiation. It couldn't have been more real or more effective or more magical if I had been laying in the sarcophagus of the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the presiding officers had been Lao Tzu, Buddha, Pythagoras, S.L. McGregor Mathers, Aleister Crowley, Mark Twain, and the Dalai Lama. All initiation ceremonies I have subsequently passed through in my life have simply been amendments, booster shots to that first homemade initiation in my bedroom temple on that Thursday night so long ago. So how about you? Are you feeling sincere and open to the moment? Have you reached the season of your life when all you need is a little shove to push you into the deep end of the pool of your magic? If the answer is yes, you've just applied and have been accepted by the hidden hierophants of the ancient and mystical order of homemade magicians. You may now open your initiation monograph. Okay, now I've shared that with you before, but uh, in these times, I think it is eminently appropriate that we remember that we've lived for quite a while in the relative freedom of a golden age of outward initiatory societies. And that may not always uh, be the case. So initiate yourself, God damn it. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.